Well, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Beside me here is Brit. How are the emotions, Brit?
I don't know if it's a happy Thursday. It's a decent Thursday. I mean,
it was a happy Thursday.
Yeah. So, like, with my new thing that I'm going to be doing, like live game streams, I was just thinking now, like, I feel like when we do pods right after games, you channel such different emotions that maybe I'm not meant to do like just post game reviews immediately after the game, but maybe it's better. I don't know, because I definitely feel different a couple days after a game. So I'm trying to reel myself in here because it's not as bad as it feels, but feels pretty crappy. I don't love it.
I know. It's just the worst. Yeah, so if you guys are tuning in right now, the Boston Bruins game just happened and we just got I wouldn't say our butts kicked. It was close until it wasn't, you know. But we still lost 5-2. The scoreboard makes it feel worse, so and you have to go and put on a happy face right after the show. And that's not easy to do. So before we continue with our fake happy, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast when we go live. You can also follow them on the various social media platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at Cluster Puck Avs on Instagram. I just lost myself. Cluster Puck Avs on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. And if you want to follow us on Facebook, you can go to the Cluster Puck Podcast. Okay, so I guess since that one's fresh in my brain, or in our brain, why don't we just talk about the Boston game first and then kind of work our way backward? I guess this is going to be a bit different, but it's fresh. You got the fresh emotion, so let's talk about that one.
It feels like we could not say the name of the team that we played and almost address every loss within the last week or two with the exact same thing. Like, we need goaltending and we need to play in the first period. I mean, that's this game. Have we ever scored the first goal of a game? Like, ever? This is a recurring theme. It's like it feels like these guys have some kind of like, they like being choked or something. They got to get down to feel the heat. It's like they just can't get into it. It's bewildering that, especially, they seem to turn it on at the end there and they're exhausted. Even when they're absolutely exhausted and you can tell that they're slowing down. Ryan Johansson's still in freaking Montreal by the end of this game. He's just at the hotel.
He forgot where he was.
Oh my God, I swear to God. So, and that's another Johansson. I haven't looked at what his minutes. I mean, I am to the point that sometimes you just forget that he even plays for this team. You know, it's like guys are gone on IR for a long time and you forget they're on their team. We do that while Ryan Johansson is sitting on our bench. Like, it's wild how. And I don't know if he's just heard the rumors and he knows that he's not trusted, but boy, he sure isn't trying to prove Bednar wrong in his assumption that he simply cannot keep up with this team. There is something really, really wrong with Johansson.
There's a mental block. It's got to be a mental block because his ability, you can tell he still has those flashes in the pan every now and again. But the problem is it's every now and again. It's not like always, you know.
And it's the are getting so much. I can't remember the last time he got like a point the other night. I mean, like, he just doinked it on the way to somebody making a real play. But I mean, he truly has not. I cannot think of a play in the last several games. And granted, he's not getting a lot of minutes, but it's cyclical. He's playing crappier.
You got to make do with what you get, and the more you make do with what you get, the more you are going to get. If that makes any sense.
And it's kind of checked out on him entirely. His minutes are down to, I don't know if he's played over even 10 lately. It feels like nothing.
They've gone down. So the Colorado Avalanche lose this game 5-2. Like, it was, the first period started off really rough. They score within the first 45 seconds. Then they score 2 within the first 4.5 minutes. You finally get one back and you're like, okay, you can make this a game. But it just kept being where the Bruins were always one step ahead, no matter what happened.
Yeah, they put this on, and you have to play all 60 minutes to score on them.
You really do, and you have to, and you, because
Boston has this really lockdown defensive mentality, if you really think about it, right? I mean, they anytime there was anything remotely close to the net, they all just converged. So you had to pull outside chances, and by then the whole net's already blocked up by, if not Swayman, the rest of the
combined with Swayman's absolutely fantastic play.
yeah.
Allie, I'm sure you saw Allie over here mentioning, I see no reason that he doesn't win. He is, and I just love him. I love him so much. He's so sweet.
I see one reason. I see one reason he won't win.
Why?
And it goes by the name of Connor Ingram. The end.
I don't know about that, man.
I want a Coyote to win the business so bad.
I know. Well, and especially maybe it'll finally get that game out of my head where he had a 49 save shutout on the Avs. That wasn't that the Cup year? I've never seen the goalie play like that in my entire life. And that was before he was really on anyone's radar. I think he was the third string in Arizona. Is that what
Something
it was?
like that. Well, so he was the backup in Nashville. Then Arizona picked him up. And his best game by far that season was he put like a 50-some-odd, 52 point
that game is
shutout against Tampa. And then he pulls another one against Colorado. It's just
he
crazy.
Could be like a Masterson thing too. I mean, he went to the player assistance program for apparently, and I just kind of read a big thing on it, just super like off topic, but he's like a really incredible dude. He ended up with serious obsessive compulsive issues after COVID, like being scared of germs and COVID and getting sick, and like drove himself mentally ill, basically being stuck in a hotel, and he was by himself as a backup living in a hotel during COVID. He essentially just it's a really interesting story, but yeah, I like him a lot. But Swayman is also he's I love every interview with him. I just love him more. And yeah, he's good. He's very, very good.
He is very good. So to get the couple past him is great. And like I said, you kept it okay. I mean, you were down by one almost all the way through until about 5 minutes left, and it all came crashing down, just like a grinding freaking halt.
And I don't where you give Twitter, and I know people are going to go off, but like that last goal on Georgie, that was world class. Like that's
the redirect was fantastic, and just because Georgiev read the direction just fine, it would have been a routine stop.
He just about got it, and it probably would have been highlight reel if he had gloved that one. I mean, he was stretched full blown, but like you can't go across the whole entire crease and try to read a redirect like that. Like the last one was not on Georgie.
No.
But
neither was the empty netter.
We could just have a shutout in the first period and score a goal. We might win every single game we ever played in.
It's about coming out hot, and just the last couple weeks, it seems, with the exception of maybe one or two games, it's just they haven't been doing that. And so now you have this thing again where you win, lose. You know, and all these teams have it, right, where they have skids and
they are at
their footing and
exhausting road trip. They have had, and they said back in the middle of the night, basically getting it's time for them to be tired. But God, it doesn't seem like it's the tired that kills him. It's these little lapses, and then that Manson penalty, and it's tough. Like that's really tough.
Yeah, just dumb. And then I would probably say the one that I would disagree with as far as the refereeing in this game, there was really well done, except for a one offside, not offside call where I don't know in what world that man had possession of the puck, because he redirected it as he's crossing, but his whole foot was crossed the line, and I could go into it for a while, but we have other games to cover, so
it just offsides is like ruins the Avalanche's lives. Like they're going to catch
that and too many men
the other night, and then call this one not offsides. Like it's just mind blowing. It really is.
It feels like it's an arbitrary call at this point for the referees. They're like, it was close enough.
And the review is just, I don't know. I hate it.
So either way, the Boston Bruins skate away with that one, 5-2. So we'll jump now to the game prior. So we'll just kind of go in reverse order. The Avalanche did win the game against Ottawa 7-4. Story of the game on this one, Justus Annunen plays in net. lets in 4 relatively quick and then shuts it down for the rest of the game, which you want, but at the same time, with the progress he was making per the goalie's coach, you thought he would have let in 3 max. So
I didn't.
A win's a win, but
Yeah, I don't feel super comfortable with him. They could have scored 10. He left. You could tell the Avs were playing with a goalie behind them that concerned them because there was a lot of open nets, a lot of weird reads, a lot of overcommitting. I just didn't like a lot of it with Ananen. But I mean, he got the job done. You can only play the game.
Yeah, and I mean, 40 shots on goal, and so that's a 90% save. So it's good, but at the same time, it's like
a lot of open nets.
That's a lot of open, and he let out a lot of rebounds in that, I noticed, right? But good on the Avalanche, especially the depth to come out and score. I mean, for crying out loud, Mikko had a couple, yes, but Miles Wood, Malinsky, O'Connor, Taves,
Malinsky got
and Justin Pollin, his first NHL goal in that game, and it was a beautiful goal.
It was the night of the college free agents picked up by the Colorado Avalanche. Technically Malinsky got 2, and then they said, no, Duran is 0.4 centimeters offside, so we're going to take it away. And then Malinsky said, no, I want to go.
It's so dumb. Just dumb.
Yeah, it's nice to see those guys, especially Malinsky, man. That guy, he's taken someone's job. He
really is, and we're going to talk about. Since the midway point is gone, we'll go with midseason grades later in today's episode. But either way, 7-4 victory, not the prettiest of wins, definitely an ugly win. But the third period, where you are a third period team most of the time, that it came to show. And then the second to last one, you lose to Montreal. In Montreal, and this one, it just seemed the Avalanche were stuck in a tub of molasses the entire game. They were just slow and sloppy, and you're just like, they are not here to play.
Mm-hmm. And then, so what's your take? Were the Canadians booing Drouin, or were they saying Drew? Because if they're booing him, I'll go fight each one of them individually, even if it takes the rest of my life. But I think because it didn't sound like a rude boo.
I don't know.
And what would they have to really hate about it? I mean, it's like
no, and that's the thing is, if anything, they should kind of hate themselves because they put him in such a mental lock.
Yeah, maybe you guys should, unlock this yourself.
And so I don't know, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. In fact, I didn't really notice it all too much.
Oh.
So but at the same time, it was one of those where it seems like all the luck in the world went Montreal's direction because they had these fluky little quick hit slap goals and just redirects and just Georgiev not posting up correctly, and it happened to find the tiniest little seam. It's
those are the ones that are hard to get at because, in the NHL, it's got to just happen sometimes. But oh my God, it's like Georgie has such bad luck on top of just a couple bad goals, and it adds up to an 89% save average.
Because he plays exactly how he needs to play, but it's just the puck just decides to hate him 99% of the time.
And, I mean, it seems like because that was just a poor choice on the RVH playing the puck against the net, putting the leg up parallel to the bar. It just it almost feels like they're trying to change something about his game, and it's not clicking right in little ways. I don't know, but you could tell if he just wanted to die after that one.
Yeah. So very poor effort. I mean, overall by everyone. So I'd say just that one
in its entirety.
Yeah, exactly. It made you uncomfortable. You were kind of just like, at this point, just give up. They stayed in the game, but it's like, why was it even a game to begin with? This one you should have been skating away with a 7-2 win. You know what I mean? But
scoring a couple goals and locking it up so you can take it easy.
Yeah. But that's how hockey is, So a team can just all of a sudden fire on all cylinders and you're left there sitting in the dust. So a loss 4-3 against Montreal. And then the first game of since last week's episode, I should say, was an amazing game, back to a positive note, where the first period sucked, but then it was the Avalanche the rest of the way. This was
what
against Toronto.
the heck?
And it was an amazing comeback victory.
They're like one of my other teams. I listen to SDPN, like Dingle Show, religiously. I love Drew. Drew is their producer, who is a giant Avs fan. And oh my God, the chaos that the Avs set off. And then they went. Toronto blew 4 multi-goal leads in the last, like their last 4 games. It's so bad, and we really like propelled that insanity.
Yeah,
kind of fun.
Well, and then this one, I mean, the Avalanche are down 3-0 by the end of the first period, and you're like,
because we're playing not that great. We are playing
because it absolutely sucked, right? But as soon as second period flipped, it was Avalanche the rest of the way. They like Toronto didn't even have a prayer the rest of that time.
Toronto played really bad. Like they could have kept. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it was amazing.
They just let them. It felt like it was bizarre. That team needs an identity. Holy crap, that team is. We may have like been part of the reason that they like crumble because I don't think that they're going to be buyers at the deadline. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. It was fun. That game was fun as crap. It was so nice.
It really was. It from the second period on, it got fun because they started clawing until finally by like 3.5 minutes left, they're up 4-3. And then Ross Colton finally hits his empty netter that he missed twice on. And they skate away with a 5-3 win. But my only worry from that, now let's kind of flip the timeline and now go actual, forward time, is that win, since it was a come from behind win, I feel like it gave the Avalanche a false confidence that, we've been down 3-0 before. We could come back from that, no problem. Yeah. And look what happened, right? If I go back to the Canadiens game, who scored first there? Okay, the Avalanche did, but
they did.
So I can't make a good point there. Hang on, wait. There, Boston, and then the Senators game. Both the other teams scored the first goal, right? And so you had to try to claw your way back from a deficit. Again, from a deficit. It's just
so exhausting to chase a game, and the number of times that they've done it is so not sustainable. Like they're having to play so much harder. And like even just the emotional energy in it is just not good for them or us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it feels like as soon as another team scores first, it just feels like this game, no matter what happens, is going to drag all the way until about 3 minutes into the left in the third period, because the Avalanche their response time is so slow to get a goal back, to then go up one or to pull it within 2, stuff like that. Just as soon as that happens, you're like, hey, this is going to be a full fight the whole 60 minutes. And if they stutter even once with a stupid penalty, bad passing, own entries, you name it, it's game over.
Yeah, tonight.
So yeah, not very fun. But either way, the 5-game road trip will come to an end in Philly, and we'll talk about that in the upcoming game section. But 2-2 on the 5-game road trip right now. You hope that you end up 3-2. But right now you have to correct not being able to score first, let alone scoring multiple in the first period.
We have got to stop having to make comebacks, like especially multi-goals. There's so much to be said about playing a game not relaxed, but to be able to put it away and just protect a lead instead of being absolutely forced to have to score goals up until a couple minutes left in the third. We gotta.
Yep. Exactly.
My dogs were extremely needy tonight. I have no idea why. I just had a 2-hour phone meeting or computer meeting before this also, and they have demanded to have every ounce of my attention. So I am sorry. They're both all up in my grill.
No, it's good. Guest appearances. We're all for it. We're all for it. Okay, so that wraps up the weekly recap then. So let's go ahead and go into some quick team items. So real quickly, Arturi Lehkonen is anticipated, from what I've been hearing, to be back within the next week, thereabouts.
Yeah,
so that'll be good.
Players, but maybe not. Is that
I think what they were leaning more toward was he traveled with the team onto the road trip, but I want to say Wednesday against they're back home against the Capitals. I think they said that game is more likely, if not Friday, as in a week from tomorrow, against the Kings. So we'll, I guess, keep our heads up there. But he's been skating. He's been doing full practices. I think he shed his non-contact, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Bo was in a non-contact jersey too.
Bo was, so he's getting close. I think they said this next week is when when they're going to try to get him back on the ice. So, and thank goodness too, because we really need help. And we'll talk about that depth here in a second, about the mid-season grades. But before we do that, there was one last piece of news that came out this week, and as you could probably see by the games that were played, they are missing one of the leading goal scorers for the Avalanche, and that is Valerie Nichushkin, who has entered the player assistance program for personal reasons. And he released a statement saying, "It's time to take care of this once and for all. Thank you for your support. I want to make sure that I'm right before I get back on the ice. And it's been dragging me down for a while." More or less to that extent was what he was saying. Mm-hmm. You hate to see it. You really do. But you know that it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's, a lot of people are offering support, and the overwhelming thing seems to be support. And I think that's good. I think that between Nik and Sammy both going into the program, as much as you hate having two players going into the program, it does say a lot about our locker room that they're comfortable enough to do that. I would be curious if Sammy doing that and successfully completing the program kind of gave Nik the, I don't think that Sammy went and told him he needs to go, but I think that maybe he thought it's a good time to go, especially as much as you don't want to make it about the hockey and not about the person. You have to imagine that there's a little bit of wanting to get this done before playoffs and take better care of himself. He's got a brand new baby. Life is a lot different the way you view it when you have, a newborn. And also, they haven't said, what it is, if it's alcohol, drugs, they have not said what any kind of abuse. And people have a lot of assumptions, but you got to think, like, look at that, guys. It's kind of just a random thought that I had. When you consider Gerard and Nik are the two going, those are the two that faced some of the most brutal injuries during the playoff.
It's true.
I mean, if you look at Nuk's foot and the amount of painkillers that they probably had, and Gerard
broke his neck, his sternum,
everything together, his sternum. So you have to think, like, those guys have been through some seriously hard times. It's not just a partying kind of thing. You know, I think that you really have to think about what they've been through the last few years, injury wise and emotionally. So yeah, I just root for the player, and I'm ready for him to be back and healthy. And you got to think, if he's been playing the way he has, we can only expect much better, amazing things out of him, mentally and physically. So I believe anyone should go. We always are in a better place when the locker room is healthy. And so hockey wise and people wise, it's always going to be a positive.
Exactly. Yeah. But at the end of the day, hockey is just a game. And we would much rather have them live out the rest of their life mentally okay, instead of having this burden weighed down or whatever problems that they were having, for them to be rid of them and not have them weigh down on their conscience. So timeline to be determined. They put them on an IR situation, so it could be like right after the All-Star break. They haven't really given us a really good timeline, but if I were to wager a guess, I'd probably say right after All-Star break, but that's just me. So yeah, we'll see what happens as the team plays without Val Nichushkin. But speaking of team, let's kind of talk about mid-season grades. So the halfway point happened last week, just before our episode last week. We couldn't quite dive into that one just because there was a lot of stuff going on at that time as well. But we finally have the chance to sit down, look at this team and what they have accomplished so far halfway through the 2023-2024 season. So as it stands right now, the Avalanche are 29-14-3, 61 points, a point out of first place in the division because of a outrageously steroided Winnipeg team, right?
Oh, hell. Why?
So overall impression of the Avalanche. We'll do that quickly, and then we'll go into each player specifically. So, Brit, so far, what do you think?
It's really hard to get too deep and forget the big picture that we're really good, even if we don't feel like we're really good. I mean, honestly, at this point, I'd have to give this season a B minus. And I think a lot of that just derives from the inconsistency. I feel like if we could put together consistent play, we could be unstoppable.
Yeah, and I think as far as mine is concerned, my grade, I would probably agree with you on that one, a B minus. Because it's not in C range because they're not in a losing season, right? But because of the level of expectation, plus the depth you have, plus the production that you should be having, you would expect a little bit more. Now, obviously, players like McKinnon, Drouin, all these guys that are exceeding expectation, yeah, that's great. But on the team as a whole, there's just something missing. Just little bits and bobs here and there. Is like they forget to play hockey sometimes, you know. So needless to say, you know, they're still on track to have a 100-point season as a team for wins.
Yeah, I think
But
at one
you'd
time
like
I
to-
said that they're tracking for more points than the year that they won the cup. And that was a couple weeks ago, I believe I heard that.
Yeah. So they're like, and that's the thing is we now have to kind of take a step back and be like, looking at the record, you have twice plus as many wins as you do losses, right? We're fine right now, right? It just, and you're like we said, a point out of first place in the division, right? But we're making it sound like the sky is falling, right? So yeah, I understand. I got to curb my expectations a little bit, but at the same time, I know this team's potential, especially from that first 15 games where you were like, what, 12-3? It was incredible, right? So I know this team has that capability, but just for some reason, it just gets lost from time to time. It's just weird, very, very weird.
Yep.
So let's do this then. So we're gonna go into player grades. However, I am going to leave out a few people. I'm going to leave out Andre Pavel, not enough sample size. And this is from not enough sample size. Yeah. Andre Pavel, Oscar Olausen, Jason Polin, Riley Tufte, Ben Myers, and Arturi Lehkonen. I'm going to leave those guys out. And Arturi, we already know we love him. Great. But because of that injury, and he hasn't been playing for the last 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
It's a long time, man.
So we will start then with I guess we'll start from games played bottom to top here. So we'll start with Sam Malinsky. Believe it or not, 19 games played, but boy howdy has he made every last one of those matter. It's been amazing. So, Britt, Sam Malinsky, what's your grade on him so far?
I really think that when you take expectation to what he's accomplished, I'd honestly have to give him an A. When you consider he's an AHL player, he is older, he's a college free agent, but he wasn't expected to be a mainstay on this roster. And like I said, at this point, he is truly working somebody out of their job, or possibly even just forcing someone like Jack Johnson to be like a co-pair at 7th D. You can pick, what do we want? The safe veteran? Do we want Malinsky is being referred to as a baby Makar? I mean, he truly has a great hockey IQ. He's not scared. He's playing and he sees plays that many tenured vets don't. So I won't talk about this much about everyone, but Malinsky is truly, truly one of the brightest points with the Avs right now. And unfortunately, maybe making some people expendable. And that's a big discussion, might be working some people into being traded or out of their job. So I really like him. He's got a sweet smile. It's super cute when he scores. He laughs and smiles like a toddler, and I love it when guys are like that.
Well, very good. I'm going to give Sam Malinsky an A-. He is and same reasons, right? He's surpassed all these expectations. He has scored multiple goals. He's right in this position where he needs to be. The only reason it's an A. Yeah, but the only reason it's an A- for me is because sometimes he does show those little rookie lapses that a seasoned veteran typically wouldn't do, which is fine. I don't think any of them have come to being turnovers that led to goals, But there's just a couple times where it's like, right there, you probably should have done a backhand around the rink pass, or, oh, and this one, get that tape down. You got to stop the puck. So just little things here. But again, it's given the overall scheme of things, he's playing great, and he's got a slap shot that I would dream to have.
Yeah.
That thing flies 1,000 miles an hour, and his perimeter skills are fantastic. Yeah. So A minus for me for Sam Belinsky, and like you said, he's job hunting, and I think right now he has the advantage over those that are struggling.
For sure.
Okay, Caleb Jones. I'm gonna go ahead and start with this one. C+. He's there when he needs to be. He's a great replacement for when there's an injury. However, and I know he's a defenseman, right? But he's there. He shows up with a big presence, but then kind of doesn't do anything, right? Yeah. He'll play too cautious, right? Too conservative, because he's too afraid to make mistakes, where he ends up just kind of not hurting the team, but not helping, right? So it's kind of just it's great you're here, fill the spot, and that's about it. So C+ for me on Caleb Jones.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly where I said he's serviceable, safe. He's found himself a spot. He is clearly trusted by Bednar, which is, as I say all the time, that's huge, because if Bednar doesn't trust you, you get out of his good graces pretty quick. He's not somebody that we will bend over backwards to keep or play, but he's certainly serviceable. So yeah, I think C+ is good.
Yep. Okay, moving on up the list, Curtis McDermott. Brit.
Hits hard, man. I've been a McDermott stan for quite some time, but it's really getting hard. I think he's just kind of at a D+ for this year. It does get harder because he just really doesn't get a lot of minutes, but he just isn't keeping up at this point. And he's also bringing the lines down that he's on, and just the penalties when they're not productive penalties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Man, I love him so much, and it hurts so bad. I think a D+ is the best I can do, and the plus might be a little pity just because I love
him. So I think I want to give him C- just because he has multiple goals on the season, but I just hand on my heart can't do that for the exact same reasons that you said. So I will agree and say D+. His handling has gotten better, and we understand his role is to be kind of the goon, more or less.
Well, and supposedly no one works harder. He's on the ice as much as Nathan McKinnon, from what I hear.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like he compared to like 2 seasons ago, it is a rather large difference. Not exactly night and day, but you can tell he has taken a little more time to handle the puck, to figure out, oh, I don't need to just dump pass and get an icing called on us every single time. Right. He knows the passing, he knows the plays, but the problem is, like you said, costly penalties, not a lot of ice time, so just D+.
And honestly, we're just a tough team. We don't really need an enforcer anymore. Josh Manson
exactly. Yeah, because you got Manson, you got Wood, you got O'Connor.
And then freaking McKinnon, apparently.
Yeah, you got people that are fighting no problems. And if Landeskog comes back next year, you'll have even more. Mm-hmm. So D+ for me on Curtis McDermott. Would love to see him excel, though. That goes without saying. So next, Sam Girard. This one is difficult because it was a smaller sample size. So with what it is right now, I'm going to go ahead and give him a straight C. I know, Britt, but let me explain. He same thing as like Seth Jones, and by Seth Jones I meant Caleb Jones. He is there. And his presence has been much better since he came back from the player rehab program, right? So I'll give him that. But before that, there's a lot of struggle that I was noticing, right? So it was kind of like first half, Sammy was not that great. Then he goes in the player systems program, and he comes back out and he's doing better. I'd still like to see a lot more of him. And like I said, the reason I give him a C is because I know what he's capable of. Whereas with Caleb Jones, he was just a replacement, right? So I know what he can do, and so far he's not living up to that hype for me. He's not doing anything wrong. I haven't seen him make any really egregious mistakes or stupid ones. His skating ability is still top notch. The La Tornade continues to amaze me. But I'd like to see a little bit more aggression from him. He'll hit just fine, but just making a play as a defenseman. That's kind of the norm of how the NHL is kind of going. Is defensemen can now quarterback plays to happen, and I'd like to see for Sam Girard to do that. So straight C for me, until further notice. So that's my review.
Oh yeah, I don't know. This is probably one of the farther ones we've had. I think I'm at like a B+ for him, man. I think he his absence proved his value. You notice how now we're all trade Bo Byram. Sam's great. Like the whole narrative around Sammy G has changed a whole lot. I just think that he proved that how valuable he was while he was gone, and he's such one of those like quiet presences that does so much on the ice without really looking like it till he does one of his big spinny boys. But yeah, I just and seeing him back healthy, just God, he looks so good, and I love him, man. And I've loved his play since he got back. And he sorry, I have the hiccups. He definitely wasn't at his best before he left, but you also got to be curious if that was the lowest of low for him before.
Could have been, yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, I think I got to put him at a B+ because I have been loving him since he got back, and just the way that it realigned the defense helps so much.
There you go. Totally valid. I'm like I said, I totally can believe everything you say. But okay, moving on up. Joel Kiviranta. Brit. What about Joel?
I don't know. Can you grade them on like a timeline scale? Because I was really feeling him at the beginning of the year, but he just has really kind of fallen off. I think he's like kind of a C+ for me. He just kind of is. I'd say, did he peak in that Dallas? Was it the Dallas game that he got two goals? I'd say he
might have.
Whatever game it was, he had one game with 2 goals. I think. I swear it was the Dallas game that he got his. Yeah, but he's really fallen off. Not that he's continually making big, huge mistakes, but there's certainly other tweeners that my dogs are literally like having an argument behind me. I'm going back and forth. But yeah, he's all right.
All right.
He's a C+, C, solid C+, C. Yeah. Just exists. Pretty much Caleb Jones vibes for me.
Yeah. I'm going to give Kiviranta a B-. So I'm gonna throw him into that upper echelon. Because he still has the productivity. It's the streakiness, right? So it's like if you could fix that, then you got places, right? Like that's the good thing. And he's not a liability on the ice. He does give it plenty of hustle, that's for sure. But at the same time, you'd be like, with what you've seen now, with who you've been interacting with, you would expect a little bit more crisp passing, a little bit more moves and finishes. You feel like he is kind of at that graduated level.
Because he
be able to play
for Dallas last year, didn't he? He wasn't
He was on their 4th line, I think. And I remember the only one I remember is with Dallas is he was the one who scored the overtime Game 7 goal against the Avalanche in the bubble. So again, I know his capability and I know his ceiling still hasn't been hit. I'd like to just see it escalate a little bit more. The effort's there, but now it's kind of more the finesse, the skill more than anything. So B- for me. Okay, Andrew Cogliano. I will go ahead and start with this one. I'm going to give him a B, leaning B+, but we'll say a solid B for right now. Mm-hmm. He is, you'd think he'd be made of glass with all these injuries he has sustained, or I should say beatdowns he has gotten, but he keeps getting back up. The man is Iron Man. And that's something that you can appreciate. Exactly. Like you'd think he'd be dead by now, and his wife would never let him see the ice again. But he keeps coming back, and he keeps giving greatness as far as like a defensive and a technique standpoint. He's always there. He's always ready to give off the next pass. He's always open for a good shot. His his shorthanded ability is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he is showing that age, right?
Yes.
So it's his peak is behind him. I think that's a safe assumption to say. But at the same time, he's not doing anything that's offensive. He's doing really good for what, for the one by, every year deal that he's been having, continuing to extend with the Avalanche. And I think he fits the system really good. And he's a great mentor to have for the younger people. So I'm going to say B for Andrew Cogliano.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere between an A- and a B+. I don't know. Did you listen to the Nathan MacKinnon interview on he was on 32 Thoughts this week? Really good interview. If anybody
I haven't listened to that one yet.
Yeah. So Nathan MacKinnon was on 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick, and then Chris McFarland joined Frank Saravelli. I can't remember what his pod is called also. So there's a lot of good, which I like how they go and interview with people in Toronto, but barely ever do interviews with local people. But I am feeling so good about Cogliano after this because when they talked about who the leadership and who helped develop Mac into being a better leader than he was a couple years ago, he pretty much said Gabe Landeskog and Andrew Cogliano. I sometimes forget that he is a huge, huge, huge leader in that locker room. I honestly, at this point, it sounds like he's essentially the captain in standing because he's the one who, and he also had that, historical Game 6 speech. As long as he is capable of existing on the ice without wrecking games, I see them keeping him as long as possible. He's 36 and they were talking about how he does long workouts after every game. He apparently does tons and tons of stretching and breathing, which I imagine is what keeps him able to play. But he's worshipped on that team and so I'd put him at a B+ or A-, and he takes some really dumb penalties. That's the one thing that gets me is some dumb penalties. But I think that he's pretty incredible for his age and the job that he does. It's a very hard job in the NHL.
It really is. Okay, moving on then. Next on the list is Bo Byram. I'll go ahead and start with this one again. Bo, for me,
it's a rough
honestly, C-. It's and I don't like saying that, but at the same time, it's like you signed him to a larger deal. You gave him this perfect opportunity to be the potential, I don't want to say knocker outer thing for Devon Toews to send him to a second pairing, but you were given that opportunity to be alongside Cale Makar for a good handful of games. And so far it just fell very far short of the mark. He's just not been himself. I don't know if it's because of fear of reoccurring concussions or something, but just the penalties that he's been making, the fact that he's not on the ice very often, some kind of lingering injuries, there's a lot of stuff that takes into account that. But after that, 6 goals, 6 assists, you'd expect that to be at minimum doubled on the assists, right? And so he's just fallen really, really flat, and to a point where you're like, oh yeah, Bo Byram, kind of like how, and we'll talk about Ryan Johansson here, but very similar thing where you're like, oh yeah, I forgot we have him, and that's it's not fun to say, like I said, but that's just kind of how my view of it is. So C- for Bo Byram.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm at, about a C. It's been just a baffling year. We started off the year with just bad decisions. Then he had a stretch of several games putting the puck over the glass and taking penalties for that. Then a couple just bad choice penalties. And then he had those 2 goals in one game and we thought he was turning it around, and he just really just can't catch any true momentum. Feels like he looks there's still our captain. Come here. The terrible captain in our house. But yeah, he just really has felt very disengaged. And I don't know if the Toews contract was something disappointing for him because now, I mean, he's definitely keeps him down as third guy on the, if he wants to be the guy for a team, and he can see that that's not going to be happening or what the deal is, but certainly been pretty disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, we want him to be better. That's like, don't get us wrong, but that's just kind of how it is mid-season, Okay, moving on up the list, Josh Manson. Boy, let's see. Do you want to start with this one, or do you want me to go first?
Totally up to you. I can go. I think I've got him at about a B. I mean, he really, when you consider the last year, he's got a pretty solid contract with us, and especially when you consider like the last 2 weeks, man. Since he got back from injury, he has been playing really good, tough hockey. Couple bad penalties here and there, but that's just kind of going to happen when you're a player that plays on the edge. He rides that line really hard, but God, like there was a couple times tonight that even when he got his penalty, he went flying through there like that. It's hard to remember sometimes for me how really big he is. For some reason, he's face,
a big guy.
He seems like a smaller guy, but he has really, really played well. Something that we weren't sure we were ever going to get back.
Yeah.
I see. I'm going to hit the comments really quick. Brad asked, I think Brad is asking if we think that the Avs make the playoffs. And if they don't, it would be a travesty.
Something's really wrong if they don't. Yeah.
At this point, for the next 3 years, I would say it's like Stanley Cup finals or conference finals, anything short of that. The disappointment. It is truly the window that we should be competing for the Stanley Cup every single year. For the entirety of essentially our core, which I think will go beyond 3 years, but I think realistically we have another 3 years where it's inexcusable for us to anything short of making it past the first one.
Yep. So to answer Brad's question, I think the Avs are making the playoffs. It's just a question of do they finish first or second. I think that's kind of the objective that they're going to go. So going to Josh Manson, then for me, I would agree B. I think that's a good solid grade for him. He has shown a lot of skating improvement and body control in this last season, or this half of the season compared to last year's, where he was just all over the place, mentally he was kind of checked out. It almost feels like production wasn't very good.
Injuries lingered just nonstop.
Something, and injuries and all that kind of stuff. But this one is unlike, even in this Boston game, he had the dumb penalty, but that's kind of his MO. But at the same time, there were places where he was all over the ice, like he was skating like a
lion.
It was amazing to see, and you're like, and this guy's like 7'9", just skating and getting into the crease, and just amazing stuff. So I would say B is also a good grade to give him. He's been steadily improving his craft, I would probably say. So that does have the chance to go up, but for what it's worth right now, 5 goals, 8 assists, that's,
we're
by our numbers.
We saw in the playoffs, the cup year.
Yeah, exactly. A very playoff-esque one, to say the least. So I would agree. Excuse me. Okay, Miles Wood is the next one. I'll go ahead and go first on this one. He's also going to be in the B range for me, but right now B, leaning B minus. Again, there's been some times where he missed the last 5 games because he was sick. But at the same time, what he lacks in the production so far, right, or whatever, he does have those couple times where he makes some kind of clown decisions. I will give you that, because he is a kind of a wrecking ball on the ice.
Not nearly though that New Jersey made it sound like when we got
him. So whatever the case, though, he definitely makes up for all that negativity with the fact that he busts his butt night in and night out. He is constantly around the puck, finding ways to get into scrums against the boards, crashing people, like just checking really hard. He's not afraid to get in a fight, to rough it up a little bit.
Disengaged, sure.
Exactly, right? And so, like I said, that kind of can take its toll on him, to a point where that's all he's kind of looking for, is for some new play toy to go and punch at, right? But at the same time, with what it's worth, you got him for 6 years, and if this is year one, you've got a lot of looking up to do. Yeah. So I'd say right now B. No, I'll just say B, because I don't think it's not nearing minus territory, because again, production is what it is with a deep team. So I'll give him an excuse on that. So I'll say B for Miles Wood.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am with him too. I expected a lot more carelessness from him, I guess, but I really I think he came here knowing that he needed to set the tone right, and I really think that he's cleaned up from whatever they saw from him in New Jersey, unless he kind of just became like a scapegoat in New Jersey. I'm not sure, but I mean, he's just like a fire on the ice, that sometimes even a wildfire is better than no fire when you consider how many of our guys we've struggled with, Mikko looking like they just don't care anymore. So I really like him. I think he's got really good energy too. So yeah, I'm about a B too.
Yep. Okay, good deal. Moving on to the next one. This will be fun. We're gonna go ahead and go on to Val Nichushkin. This one's gonna be good. So Britt, who you got? What do you got for Val?
I'm just gonna disregard, him being gone right now. I don't think it's something that I can really hold against him, but you got to put him at an A. I mean, short of him just playing goalie, also, I don't know what else we could have asked him up until this point. He has feasted on the power play and just
redirected shots.
He has done so much this year. It's the most you can ask for out of a guy. I mean, really, he has certainly worked on earning that contract at this point.
Yeah. I'm right up there with you. In fact, he might be one of the 2 players on this current midseason grade that I give an A+ to. I don't know what else you could say. 22 goals, 20 assists. So he's on track for like an 84 point or 80 point season, crazy stats. So he's definitely playing to the extent we want him to. And I don't think he's done. That's the thing. I think he could still get better,
because this is definitely going to be a career year for him.
Yeah, 100%. And if this is a defining year, even better, because we've got him for a long time still. So A+ for Val Nichushkin. Again, can't explain even to a certain amount of depth how much he will be missed because of the player assistance program he's going to be at.
It's going to be hard for me when we lose.
It's going to be big shoes to fill. Yeah, because he's been, apart from Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, he's been the third guy, So A+ for Val Nichushkin. Well done so far. Okay, Cale Makar. I'll go ahead and start with this one. This one is tough because his bad play usually is another defenseman's good play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't give him anything higher than a B right now, right. and it's tough. And it's tough to say because he plays just fine. I mean, for crying out loud, 10 goals, 42 assists.
But when you consider it relative to what his
exactly, right? And that's the thing, is that Conn Smythe that he's got in his back pocket and last season's stats kind of haunting him right now. He can play so much better, and he's playing fine right now. He is, but there's only 2 things.
Turnovers and mistakes.
That's exactly it. Is those turnovers where all of a sudden he just shows this like almost peewee like turnover margin where you're just like, dude, like this isn't how you like it. Just, and it's not every game, but it's just in key crucial moments. And I think back to the Nashville game where we choked away 2 goals in less than a minute because Cale turned the puck over. And I granted, like, he kind of blew a tire and whatnot, but at the same time, I'm not worried about him, right? But I hope much higher standard than the rest of the team.
Yep.
So
that's
I'm going to be for Cale Makar, but I have 100% confidence he will be an A by the end of the season.
And that's what I pretty much just in agreement. So we can pretty much just chalk me up with the same. I'm really just hoping that he's had some kind of like nagging injury issues. He's taken some off. I think and I hope that they're coasting a little bit and being extra cautious so that he can go balls to the walls in the playoff is what my hope is. So,
100%. Okay, Freddie Olofsson. Britt, why don't you go first?
I mean, he's just kind of a C+ to me. He's just another sufficient, serviceable. Just kind of the same. I don't really have a whole lot to say. Nothing stands out a ton for me. You can play him if you need to. You might probably other people that you would choose first if possible, in your regular. But this C+. Not too much to complain about.
So this one, Britt, I think it's another one that we're going to be pretty spread out on because I'm giving him a B+.
Oh yeah.
He right now has 3 goals, 6 assists. So yeah, production is not the highest, right?
That's not what
but considering how he came onto the team and how he is now kind of co-captaining the third line, or for sure captaining a fourth, it's pretty remarkable. And he always has the right ice vision. For me, it's ice vision. He knows exactly how to direct the pass. He knows how to get it to a place where if it's rebounded, it'll go right to an Avalancheman. He has impressed, probably besides Jonathan Drouin, he has impressed me the most as far as taking a very, very low expectation and making the most out of it. So again, I'm holding him to a different grading curve, but if this is how it's going to be, I'm totally fine to keep him on the roster day in and day out. So B+ for me on Freddie Olofsson. Okay. Logan O'Connor. I'll go ahead and go first on this. B+ as well, maybe even A-. I mean, the guy's work effort is just outstanding. You know what? Let's give him A-, just to feel good about ourselves.
Story of a lifetime. Like I could not.
It's incredible.
Enough to me, he is like the quintessential grinder, like the absolute. If every team could have 4 Logan O'Connors, that would. I mean, he's just a coach's dream.
It really is. And like you said, his work ethic is unmatched. His penalty killing is phenomenal. The fact that he scored 3 shorthanded goals in 3 consecutive games is unheard of.
His positivity off the ice, on the ice.
His physicality, he's not afraid to check. He's not afraid to fight. He will stand up for anyone. Why not? Let's give him an A- for what he can accomplish. But again, he's also right there with production as well. 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points for a third liner, maybe
first line to the third line within the same game.
Yeah, and you can plug and play him anywhere. Exactly what you said, and he will perform. He will give it 100%.
Yeah, he brings
that's something you can't coach. That's not even textbook. That's beyond textbook. So why not? We'll say A- for Logan O'Connor.
Word, it's my guy. I love him, man. My next jersey.
I don't know if grading wise you agree. A little different.
That's exactly where I am. I'm at an A-, and I mean, short of I don't know what else he could do. What else can? There are physical limitations to people, and he doesn't have what he lacks in IQ that you just can't. There's a ceiling he makes up for in sheer determination. So yeah, I'm an A-. Agree with everything. He's the best.
Yep. Okay, we got just a little handful left, so we'll kind of try to breeze through this quickly here. Ross Colton. Britt, why don't you go ahead and tell me what you think of Ross Colton?
I think a B+, I think, is where I sit. When you consider the pay to expectations to where I think he still can go, I think he still can do a little bit better. He makes kind of bad choices sometimes. He's still a little streaky. He disappears off and on for a little bit, I think, with some consistency. And they're still adjusting, to this team. But I really like him. I think he's going to fit in well. I'm happy to have him for the time that we have him. But yeah, I think there's still a little bit more to come with consistency. Yep,
I agree. So I will give him a B for the same reasons, but I'm leaning heavily on streakiness. He's very Burakovsky-esque back in those days, right? Where it's like he's all of a sudden hot for 5 games and then just blankly disappears for 5.
Yeah, and it's weird that it's not a bad. It's just a disappearing. So he's not playing
exactly. Yep, and that's the thing is I feel like whereas Burakovsky was an entirely like a magic trick where it's just poof, he's gone.
So
Ross Colton, you can see that is a very correctable problem with him, which gives me a lot of hope. So we've got him for a long time. So far, he's been great. I love his enthusiasm after goals are scored.
Oh my God, the joy that he has makes me. I always
pure
say,
happiness.
Smile when
you feel like
score.
Yeah, it's like you would march into hell with him. You know what I mean? Like he just so amazing his energy that he brings. So B for me, but I think that'll go up by the end of the season.
I do too. Yeah.
Okay, Britt, this one's gonna be your favorite. Are you ready?
Don't say George.
Jonathan Drouin.
Oh my God. I mean, when you
will let you take the floor.
Relative is an A+. When you consider that he was essentially not going to be in the NHL last year, and I
love seeing the smile on your face when you do this.
Happy for someone. I've never wanted something for someone so bad. And like, you think about it, like, could you imagine like having to go to the player assistance program for like obsessive compulsive and depression and possibly losing everything you've ever worked for to then the next year, like playing on the first line with your bestie, scoring mad goals. Like, and what's crazy is from the amount of stuff that he is doing, there are so many times that he has like missed the net or just he could have like a 10
double the goals. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And you can just see it coming together. And it's, oh my God, even if he never played a game again after this year, like, I just feel like this has just been such a turning point in his life and his game. I just love it. Love him. A+. I don't know what else an $850,000 player could be asked to do. Like, insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I'm right up there with you. I'm giving him an A. Just same reasons, right? He has surpassed all the expectations. Yeah, he was stumbly to begin the season, I will admit, but he has hence made up plus on that 10 goals, 15 assists for 25 points, and again, we're halfway, so he could finish with 30 assists, 20 goals.
Like what?
That's a 55 point. That's a 55-point season. That is a massive, massive upgrade compared to last season, right?
Well, what did you say at the beginning of the year? If we got 20 goals out of him, it would be insanely awesome. Like,
yeah, and that's the thing is, imagine if we do re-sign him, right? I'm thinking future with this guy already. That's how impressed I've been with him. I want to re-sign him long term already, and it's only halfway through that 1 year.
And that's what, just thank God that Nathan's his guy, because I think that Nathan has a lot of pull on that. So,
yeah. Okay, so Jonathan Drouin, high marks. Love to see it. Okay, next is Jack Johnson. I'll go ahead and start with this one. B-, to be completely honest with you. He's gotten a lot faster than the last couple of seasons that we've had, in the last few seasons that we've had him. He is doing breakouts very, very well. He's always up there with odd man rushes. Now, granted, two goals, 7 assists, right? So his points aren't going to be that high, but for him, his type of a defensive caliber, you're not really looking for points.
He's got a role. That's not it.
He's got his role. So I will say for Jack Johnson, I'm giving him a B- because he's not making those dumb mistakes like he did back in the Stanley Cup winning season, where you're like, the game's now all of a sudden in jeopardy because your pass went 4 feet, right?
Yeah.
It's much more refined, much more cleaned up, and again, because of what his role is, I think he's fulfilling it just fine. Nothing noteworthy. So I'll just say B- for old Jack.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere between like a B- and a C+. He is a safety blanket that is slowly declining in ability. I think that he's definitely getting older, but man, he's been here and done that. He makes good, safe choices, and that's kind of where you weigh. Do we want to go Malinsky? Do we want to go for the young guys? Or are we going older? Safety versus like a more artistic or adventurous side. But yeah, like I said, he's a role player and he plays that role well. And there is something very valuable in tenured vets, regardless of how not fantastical it looks. So that's where I'm at.
I agree. Okay, we'll try to keep this one brief. Ryan Johansson. We've kind of already talked a lot about it already.
Yeah.
But what's the grade, Britt?
It's a D-. He exists. It's getting harder and harder to even figure out who he is at this point because he's not getting ice time and he's not doing anything with what he's getting. So I think we kind of already hit on it pretty hard. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
D- is about where you're at.
Yeah. For me, I'm a straight C. The only reason that saves him, his saving quality is the face-off, for sure.
That's fair.
But at the same time, he lost being on PP1. Yep. He is all but lost being the 2C that he was originally recruited, traded for, whatever you want to call it. And 11 goals, right? That's still okay. But at the same time, those 11 goals were like 3 months ago, right? So it's like it was just been the steady decline. It's like something's in the way of him to where he is just kind of fallen off a cliff. He's not noticeable on the ice, but at the same time, he's not costing the team for anything that I've been aware of. He's just kind of does what he needs to do, gets off the ice, and that's it, right? So it's like compared to beginning of the season where he was right there getting these redirects, muscling, and then just
disconnect, like emotionally.
Something happened, and if he gets that fixed, then great. But right now he's not living up to the 2C role we got for him. So, I'll say straight C for him. Okay, 3 more. Devon Toews is this one. So I'll go ahead and go first. Devon Toews, for what it's worth, I'd probably just honestly say B+, A-, probably B+. We'll say B+. Exactly. You signed him for the long term. You got him locked up. And it just seems like that guy doesn't make a single mistake. And defensively, his technique is fantastic. It's off the charts. 8 goals, 19 assists. He's on a typical Devon Toews pace. I don't know what else you need to do from him. He's not going to be your flashy guy. He's not going to be the guy to do these between the legs insane passes, though he is capable of it. He's just performing he's doing exactly what you need him to do. So B+ for me.
I'm at a B+ too. Like him and McCarr both. It seems like when they do have mistakes, they're like big ouchie, like holy crap mistakes. But other than that, he just feels like such a team dad. Like especially when he went out and did the big call out. Like not mad, I'm just disappointed. He just
disappointed.
He is such a dad vibe. Like he is such a strong, steady, reliable, like just workhorse. He just shows up, does his job, clocks in, clocks out, tends to himself. He doesn't, he is so valuable. I'm so glad that we're keeping him. And I just don't think people realize how easy it is to kind of forget about him because he just does everything right. Like he doesn't stand out, but he doesn't. He's not, he's not wild, but I love him, man. But yeah, I think B+ is about right for him.
Yep. Okay. Mikko Rantanen, Britt. What do you think?
I think, since I'm grading relative, I think I'm at like a B+ for him because he's been, and I'm stuck between that and an A-. He's been a little in and out. Now that he doesn't have to carry the team, he seems like he's disappearing a little bit more than usual, but also McKinnon is there taking a lot of those goals that he got last year. Just inherently, those are going to proportion out a little bit more. But actually, I'm going to go with A- because his passing this year has been out of this world. Passes that he's made have been so far beyond even some people's comprehension, let alone physically doing them. So we'll go with A-.
Yep. He's in camp A for me, straight A. And that's the thing is, even though there was a dry spell, it was something we noticed, right? But and it was only like a few games. And then all of a sudden, as soon as that snaps, he just scores outrageous amounts. And like you said, his puck handling with pass being the primary assist or something like that is really, really good. And his quick little redirections, where it's like it's a shot toward the net, but he can just redirect it really, really nice. he's Mikko Rantanen. This is kind of the expectation we had on him. He had an outrageous year last year. It's not as high right now, but who's to say he's not going to kick it up a notch in the second half, So right now, straight A for me. I'm not concerned with him at all. It's always nice when the moose gets loose. Let's be real. Okay, and lastly, I know that we've gone a little bit over, but we made it to the end, Britt.
Yeah.
And the end is Nathan MacKinnon.
Higher than A++. Like, can you just?
Yeah, we'll give him 2 pluses on the A's. It's
to
Nathan MacKinnon.
He's heart leader. I mean, if he doesn't win the Hart, I'll light the world on fire. That's all I gotta say about that.
Exactly. He's tied with Nikita Kucherov for most points in the league right now. What else can you say? There's nothing Nathan MacKinnon can't do. Nate Dogg, A++.
Leads the league in like the 22 mile an hour speed burst. Like
he's on another level.
It's unreal. Like his skating is such a thing. Like he's just a freak of nature. It just blows my mind. It never gets old watching him ever.
No, never. So that's it. That's the mid-season grades for the Colorado Avalanche. Let us know, you guys, your comments in the chat or DM us. Let us know in some capacity your thoughts on the mid-season grades, what you agree with, what you don't, any more inquiries, stuff like that. So then real quick, we'll go into the games, the upcoming games. There's only 2 this week. Yeah. One of them is Saturday. It's a matinee against the Flyers, who are, keep in mind, a really good team for some reason.
Matinees.
Exactly, and so that'll wrap up the road trip. So my only comment that I have there is play hard the first 20 minutes for sure, and then play hard the rest of the game. Just score multiple goals in the first period. That's all I ask. And
the whole league waiting for someone to come tell the Flyers about themselves and remind them that they actually kind of suck. But did you see that one tippet goal tonight?
That's candidate for goal of the year, man. I mean, that was really good.
For sure.
So
probably loving it.
Exactly. So don't take the Flyers for granted. They're back I think they're second place in the Metro Division right now. Allie's not loving it because of the proximity, and she's a Rangers fan. The
Rangers
so
being weird right now. So
she'll give you an earful for it. And then the second game, you have 4 days between the Saturday game and Wednesday when you play next. Amazing, right? And you're back home. You play the Capitals. Been struggling. No Ovechkin recently.
Yeah,
this is just one where
so good.
my only comment I have on this one is there is rest and there is rust. Mm-hmm. Which one are you going to bring to the table on Wednesday?
I think they're tired enough that it might be rest. I don't know if they can even get to rust yet at that point, because it's a long road trip, man.
It's 5 games. It takes a strain. It really does. So, okay. Well, that's going to do it then for this week's episode. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us a little bit over time. I understand, but appreciate you guys nonetheless for enduring with us. Britt, any other comments?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you once again, everyone, for following this episode of the Clusterpuck Podcast. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Clusterpuck Podcast when we go live. You can also follow them on the various social media platforms. You have our social media information. It's been down in the ticker. We say it every day. Most of you at this point have probably followed, but nonetheless, we ask that you follow our page at Clusterpuck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, and then the Clusterpuck Podcast on Facebook. With that being said, the road trip will finally come to an end on Saturday. We'll get a big rest, and hopefully we come and just
back with Lecky and
come back screaming on Wednesday against the Capitals. So with that being said, we hope you guys have an amazing week, an even better weekend. Get some rest yourselves, and as always, go Avs, go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles.